This segment is sponsored by Hollis, Wright & Clay, PC. If you've been hurt on the job, there are things to know now. Attorney Allwin is here to help. Allwin, thank you so much for coming back to see us.
Well, Catherine, as always, thanks for having us here.
Certainly. So what laws in Alabama protect workers who have been hurt on the job?
Well, it's referred to as the Workers' Compensation Act, and it was created in 1984, and one unfortunate thing is that hadn't changed since then much, and especially the numbers and the amount of compensation you get, and that's something we have to deal with the state legislature. But there's a law in place that basically creates a pathway if you're injured on the job, whether it's your fault or not. People get hurt all the time just in performing the normal duties of their job, lifting something heavy, dropping something, falling down some stairs, and it's not their fault, but there is a system in place that if it injures them, they need medical treatment, they have to come out of work where they will receive medical care at the cost of the employer or its insurance company, and they'll also be compensated to some extent while they miss work. So at least we have that in place.
Certainly. Now, say you suffered a workplace injury, again, your fault or not, but then your employer says you've waited too long to do anything about it.
There's some requirements, where you have to get a claim started and put your employer on notice that you were injured, in fact, and it's to your best interest to do that anyway. If you're hurt, you know you're hurt and you need to go to the doctor. But the general rule is you have 90 days to report an accident, but you should do it immediately, and the statute calls for the first 5 days, but you have up to 90 days to let your employer know. You should report it, you should ask for a medical treatment immediately if you're injured. And a lot of times you have catastrophic injuries where you may be unconscious and they know, but a lot of people that I've represented, they don't want to be complainers, they don't want to make a fuss over everything, and they say, this will go away. I'm just going to let it work itself out down the road, and they put themselves in a pickle because they didn't report it.
Certainly. You don't want to be in that situation.
You don't want to create another hurdle for you to overcome. The system is hard enough for them.
Now, do you have to see the company's doctor, a doctor picked by the company?
You do, and that's it's fine, I guess you can say, but the employer or the insurance company has typically doctors in their system that they will send you to, and you are required to go to the doctor of their choice with some exceptions. And if you don't, if you do not go to those doctors, then they are not responsible for paying for it. So you want to go see their doctor. If you become dissatisfied with those doctors, you do have a one-time option to select a new doctor in the same field from a panel or a list of doctors that, of course, is provided by the employer. But if you go to one doctor, it's not the proper doctor, that doctor may refer you to another doctor, and of course, this is the insurance selected doctor. Then that doctor becomes the authorized treating physician. But a lot of times insurance companies may not advise you of these rights, and it's a good reason to come to a lawyer and talk to us about it.
Absolutely. You want to know what those steps are. It sounds like a complicated process.
It can be. It's easy for somebody that's been doing it for 30 years like me, but to the common person who's more focused on performing their job and making money for their family, that's not something they're familiar with.
Certainly, and as you said, a lot of people who you're dealing with don't want to make a fuss. They don't want to complain.
A lot of people, especially these people who've been working all their life, have a lot of people that have worked one job for 20 and 30 years, and that's a good sign of a loyal, honest, dedicated individual, and they don't want to seem like a complainer.
Certainly. So what's the first few steps people should take if they find themselves, they have sustained an injury on the job?
Well, first of all, you want to report it. Sometimes there's delay because you have an employer or the human resources department that then has to turn it into an insurance company. It's assigned to an adjuster, and they may have 100 files they have to look at, and it gets pushed down the road. So first of all, report it, stay on top of them. But we suggest if you're really hurt and you're going to be out of work or potentially have a permanent long-term injury, go ahead and call a lawyer. They're going to have an insurance adjuster that assigned to the case that may want to call you and take a statement. A lot of times that's required before they're going to give you treatment because they want to find out if you have a pre-existing condition or a prior problem. And if you do, they a lot of times look for a reason to deny your claim. So I suggest you don't give that statement. You call an attorney, let the attorney do your talking for you. Make sure you get to the proper medical treatment immediately and get the claim opened and moving. That's my thought.
Good to have an advocate, certainly. Allwin, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
We appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Certainly.